Here we are, another episode of Changemakers with Miles Johnson. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, give us a bit of background about how you started doing what you were doing with your life.
So this is completely unrehearsed, and I hope this doesn't get complicated because I feel like I've always got quite a lot to say when it comes to who I am and what I do. But my name's Miles Johnson, and I am a designer, and I'm reeling off the shopping list now. So I'm a designer. I have been a creative director. I'm an artist, a sculptor, a potter, a textile designer. I design interiors. I design furniture. I am, if you like, really I really just want to be creative. That's what drives me. I just need to be creative. And as we know, being creative isn't all about dreaming up things. It's about problem solving. It's about answering a brief. It's about working with guidelines, with expectations, there's a lot to be creative with. And so the how I got into designing, and particularly with denim, was that I worked for 6 years in the film industry. I used to work in costume in film. I've always had a very, very strong leaning and passion for clothing. I love the way that clothing can influence a sort of costume, if you like, or it can give an appearance. It can make you feel a certain way. It's just fascinating how you can transform somebody through items of clothing. So I've always been very interested. And then I went back to school. I went to St. Martin's College and did an MA there in fashion. And didn't really feel like I was leaning into Paris fashion houses for my future, but more that I really respected and was interested in clothing that functioned. So I'm very much into the way that you can see your clothing walking down the street or up a mountain. And it was quite rewarding to work on those kinds of products that people can wear every day. So I went to go and work for Levi's, and Levi's had just opened a design studio in London, in Soho. I worked for Levi's in different locations around Europe for 14 years, coming home to the countryside at the weekend. And then I went to go and work for Patagonia, where I was there 3.5 years, and it was transforming in the way one thinks about design and approach to product. And 2018 came back from California to the UK, and now I consult. I do different projects with different companies. A lot of what I do now is about sustainability as a focus point, about how to evolve business and grow business, but also respect that all the choices that we make as designers have an impact somewhere along the line. So what do we do? How do we do things different? How do we do things better? So there we go. It's quite a ramble for an introduction, but that's me.
I love it. I always want to know the full picture. Now, thank you for that introduction. So you've had your hands in the denim industry for a while. What would you say is different about the industry when you started compared to right now?
Okay, so when I started, it was we didn't know anything about sustainability, to be honest. I mean, hands up, I apologize to future generations for all the things that I saw as a young designer. And this is not pointing the finger at anybody. There's no blame. It was just that we had a very limited amount of knowledge on the effects of some of the things that we were doing. So the biggest change I see is that now we know. So the world's come on a lot, and that's like 20 years. There are massive changes. There are, as an attitude change more than anything, which is fantastic because this has been a long time coming. But it kind of needs to speed up a little bit. So the changes that I saw from when I started were that it was all about making money. Money
Mm,
growth. And it's, you know, I think people are very driven by the bottom line, about profit and growth and power and all those things. But now we know that we can't do those things anymore, and we can't keep churning it out. We have to be very careful how we tread. Um, we're all responsible for one another. So if you only care a little bit, then, it's not enough. So
mm,
that's the big change for me.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about somebody who's seen that change happen over like a decade or more of time. What would you say? We know you've had experience Patagonia and Levi's and helping with their creative direction. How would you say? What are some of the ways that you helped the creative direction be influenced by sustainability goals?
I think first of all, you have to break down sustainability because, as we know,
Yeah.
it is to many people a very big subject. And
Mhm.
at the same time, there are some quite basic things to think about. So, first of all, I think that you have to be accountable for everything. So, you have to think about waste, and your processes and your systems have to be really cleaned up so that first of all, you know where everything comes from. So, when people talk about transparency, how
Mhm.
be a little bit transparent. You really need to be able to provide more clarification on where your substances and your materials come from, down to the fiber.
Mhm.
This isn't just about, we're not in the game to just buy fabric, make garments, sell garments, make money. This is
Mhm.
now, we have to regenerate the ground that the cotton is growing in. And we have to not use pesticides anymore. And we have to clean up our act at the beginning and be very closely connected to that, because you can't just come in at mill stage buying up fabric. The other end of that as well is right at the end of that product's life. You have to be responsible for it now, because you can't just expect the consumer to just know how to take a garment apart, repurpose or recycle that garment. So we have to kind of do both ends now. We used to just think about the middle part, design, make,
Mm.
sell, it's quite a linear
Mhm. Mm.
process. The circularity that we're now talking about all the time now is like, of course, when we get all of that, those two ends and all the bit in between right, then we can
Mhm.
be circular and then things will be good. But until we get to that, we've, we've got a rocky road to get there, but we will get there. I am an optimist. I sound a terrible kind of pessimist. I am an optimist.
Wow.
We can do this.
Um, what's like a specific example from your past experience that you in the optimist's perspective that you helped see from like from not so great to better in terms of sustainability?
Well, several different projects at Patagonia. I was very proud to have worked there and to have learned so much from their wisdom and, very generous with their knowledge. And product wise, launching collections like the workwear collection, like
Mm.
on the road, and working with the best of fibers. We were working with, you know, it wasn't just the organic cotton, it was just the kind of knowing the relationship that we had with the people that used to provide us with their organic cotton.
Mm.
Very well connected. Working with blends with Dyneema for like absolute sort of strength and durability,
Mm.
recycled polyester for, strength and threads. And, um, regenerative also was a big part, and that was coming into, probably will end up becoming the takeover of, had originally a commitment to organic cotton. Now it's regenerative organic cotton. So,
Mm.
and Patagonia is pretty much a lifetime guarantee on products. So it just means that they do care about you and your garment. And if you have any
Mm.
problems with it, you go back to them and you say, okay, I've bust my elbow through, or this is wearing out, or my zip broke, something, they're going to repair it for you. And if they can't, then they are going to send you a new one. So that's pretty amazing to buy into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And interestingly, so kind of shifting our focus a bit more to the denim industry, what are some challenges that you see specific to the denim industry, and how can we sort of cope with them?
Well, I go slightly back to one of the points I made earlier about the bottom line being the money. So
Mhm.
we talk a lot about degrowth. We know that we have to kind of not keep trying to grow certain things anymore. Degrowth would
Mm.
be at least us pausing for a moment and getting our breath back and trying to work out how we can work together on making things better. But because the bottom line is really money, it makes people's drive and incentive very ruthless at times, I think, which
Mm.
means that they will, I say they, there are companies that will really strive for um, making, more money and having more and more people working for them at different locations around the world. And there's no end to it. It's
Mm.
always more and more. And I don't understand that. I've never understood that. Why? Why do companies
Mm.
always have to be bigger? So I think that's a massive struggle because I don't think people can quite wrap their head around that. Because you
Mm.
never hear it. No, people don't ever stop and just go, okay, how big do we want to be? And then
Mm.
and make plans. I mean, I work with companies all the time, and one of the first questions I always ask every company is, so what's the plan? And
Mm.
I'm talking like just 5-year plans. It's pretty healthy to work in 5-year increments. When you say to people,
Mhm.
so where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like, I, most of the time, it's like, well, we're doing some good work now, and we want to do more of that good work. And it's like, well, that's not really a plan. That sounds like an idea, but a good plan is like a stake in the sand, right? And
Mhm.
and if everybody on board is clear on the direction, then everyone can work together on getting there. But this is one of those things where in our industry, we tend to work
Mm.
in seasons. So 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. It's like, okay, but this is denim, right? We're talking about.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
why does it always have to be, okay, we've got to 6 months, right? Stop, cancel everything. Let's start again. 6 months, right? Stop, cancel everything. Let's start again. We're having a bit of a problem. That doesn't really make sense. Most of the
Mhm.
time, we're talking about 5-pocket jeans. I'm pretty sure that with the engine that we have globally of being able to produce 5-pocket jeans, that we could probably work out how to work on things of sustainable innovation for a longer period of time rather than just trying to squeeze it into a 6-month time frame. So if we dream up something that we want for the future, I'm going to just make it up. It's just kind of temperature controlling, it's antibacterial, antimicrobial, it's kind of, um, it just has all these things about it as a fabric, which is, we know is possible. But if I start to
Mhm.
develop that now in 6 months' time, I promise you it won't be ready. So why don't we say,
Mm.
okay, how long will that take? Why don't we give ourselves a year and a half, something like that? Is
Mm.
that a realistic time? And then you can and work it out, and then work backwards from there. I don't
Mm.
know. Sometimes I just think I don't really understand the way we do things because, in my experience, I jumped on board with Levi's, and it was an amazing company to work for. Absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
So many good people, good ideas, and a love of the product, real passion for the product. And I started designing, drawing, and it was a very, very exciting time. But the world has changed. It's not just about kind of churning out lots of
Mhm.
designs every season.
Yeah.
It ought to be, what does the world need, and what can we do for the world, and how can we do things better, and how can we
Yeah.
arrange that every season we just grow on it in color,
Mhm.
modification, small changes to the
Mhm.
design occasionally, but stick with what you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, wow, you've said a lot of things already that I haven't heard on this podcast before and that I find helpful. Um, yeah, your insight about asking companies not just 6 months out, but 5 years out, and working with the goal in mind of the fabric or the product as opposed to the bottom line or the seasonality. Um, that's really interesting. And actually, I think that feeds well into the next question I was going to ask you, which is what do you think is the most effective way for a company to start a healthy denim business plan if they currently have no infrastructure or sustainability
Yeah.
infrastructure?
It's a good time to start, I think. It, you can ultimately, you can decide. There's all these values that have to be addressed first, I think. You start
Mhm,
by thinking, who do we really want to be? It can't just be, I have a product idea. Maybe they just
mhm,
go hand in hand. Maybe they go together. You've got like a pretty good idea that what you've got to offer is something different to what's already out there. But what are
mhm,
your fundamental values as far as what kind of company do you want to be? And how do you see the
mhm.
future with you in it? So once you've got to
Yeah.
that, then you can start to build. But there is a certain element of, yeah, going back to the last point about just giving yourself the big idea, like dream big and be creative with that. And, nothing's impossible, right? So just kind of think of all the wonderful things that you could do. And then you're not going to probably do that all straight away, but then
Mhm.
that's fun, right? So then how do
Yeah.
you grow into the thing that you want to be in 20 years?
Mhm.
And, I don't think anyone can really do it on their own anymore. And I don't think companies can do it on their own. I think small companies need
Mhm.
support. I see
Yeah.
small companies doing a great job, but I see big
Yeah.
companies trying to do a better job. But
Mhm.
why that can't be a kind of like some sort of relationship. I
Yeah.
used to talk about the big fish and the little fish and how they can work together, they can swim alongside each other just fine.
That's such a great analogy. The big
I
fish
think
and the
they can really help each other though. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're a small company and you are hands on with your product and you can create something that's really possible in, you know, it being, I'm not going to say completely sustainable because that's hard, but I mean, you could fully do a fully circular garment and your whole range could be fully circular. And some big companies would really struggle to do that. They'll chip away at it, but it won't be overnight. The small
Mhm.
company, they can find out from having the more of an experimental level of volume that inform and help the bigger fish, right?
Mhm.
And ultimately, a lot of big companies are struggling to work out how to get on board the
Mhm.
sustainability ship. And
Mhm.
it, it would be, I think, more realistic to start to kind of find ways through the long grass and let the dog run ahead and find your path for you. Because and then on the other side, the flip side is as a small company, you will struggle sometimes to get manufacturing to get
Mhm.
people to take you seriously because your numbers are small. And the big company could really help that. They
Yeah.
have liability, they have leftovers, they have relationships with factories that would sometimes do a favor for a small company. You know,
Mm.
it
Yeah.
can work.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I like that. I also haven't heard that. Okay, so like a relationship between bigger and smaller companies, but not necessarily saying that that means they need to grow, but like help each other. Um, I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I
Mm.
think so. It can be very healthy. And this thing about intellectual property, when it comes to sustainability, I mean, that's that's not right. Uh,
Mm,
you have a breakthrough. If you
mhm,
discover something that is going to make a difference,
mhm,
you want to share that with the world, right? You want to tell all your competitors. You want to tell everybody about it. You want to get everyone to do that because that's going to make the world a better place. Not,
mhm.
but that's a top secret. We can't tell you how we did that. What? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you're kind of retraining some of those instincts driven by, a competitive, um, business setup. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of crazy when you think about being competitive with sustainable innovation,
yeah, yeah, no,
and
yeah, it
then
seems
and then you do it for 6 months, and then you go, okay, we did that. So what we're going to do next season? We're dropping that one. This is the other thing as well. Um, you know, there's a crazy amount of intellect that goes into sustainable innovation, and it is fantastic what
Mhm,
scientists and dreamers and designers can do together. And when you have an achievement, that really is a foot on a ladder, and that
mhm,
you can just go up that ladder, but build it every season. Just build on it. Don't stop it. You know,
mhm,
for just sort of like treated like marketing. You know, that
yeah,
sustainability is marketing.
mm,
It's important to find your language. Sustainability does need to be talked about, but it doesn't want to be the thing that because we've achieved this small thing on our
mm,
giant platform, that
mhm,
we will talk about this achievement and we will talk about our sustainability like, it means that's everything. And
yeah,
then, 6 months later, you're on to the next thing.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it could at least be shared. And I think it should always stay in until you've done something better, because succession needs to be worked on as well. Evolution and succession need to be kind of thought about all the time,
mhm,
I think.
yeah, yeah, and in kind of in line with what you're talking about, like these innovations and sharing them, and can you think of an example of an innovation you've encountered that you thought to yourself, "Oh, like this should really be shared, or this would really help everyone, or it should be applied, across the board."
Yeah, I think so. It was complicated, but there was one collection that I worked on years ago with
Mhm,
Levi. It was a Levi's Red collection. We called it
mm,
Rustic Bread. Um,
mm,
if you look it up, it looks really interesting because it's very, I think now they call it drunken stitching, where basically
okay.
it's a bit wibbly wobbly and it sometimes parallel stitching kind of crosses. And it's, I loved it because it was fully functional, but there was a kind
Mm,
of rusticy kind of way that the garments were made. Not everything was perfect. It was a little bit asymmetrical. And
mhm,
but that's not the point of it. The point was that what we did was we had no waste on the collection. And
wow.
we had to cut all the sizes that we were offering all at the same time. It was very complicated. I didn't realize that when you're
Wow.
cutting out the patterns, that you didn't just
Mhm,
cut out all the 28 waist, all the 30 waist, all the 32 waist. Or it doesn't, I didn't realize that it sometimes meant that you have to take different pattern pieces from different sizes to make sure that you're maximizing the use of the fabric. So
wow.
we vowed that we were going to not waste any of the fabric. So it was sometimes being innovative with taking small pieces and working out how you could put an extra little pocket on the inside, or an
Mm,
extra waist adjustment or something to add to the design.
mhm,
There were some tiny, tiny little scraps left at the end of it, and all of that got swept to the end of the table and was sent to a company that turned those fibrous little pieces into paper bags. And that was the packaging for the garment and also the hang tag for the garment. So
very
it was complete. And
yeah.
I loved it because it was really joining the dots and it was addressing the issues. And yeah, I thought this would be fantastic if this could kind of roll out to other companies. And I've always talked about it as an example
Yeah, that's a good example.
It
Wow.
is a lot of work. I have to say, it's a lot of work. I have people really pulling their hair out. People were not thanking me for that collection, but as much as I really insisted on it and pushed for it, and lost a few friends along the way, I did feel quite good about that achievement at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can see why that would be so difficult, but I mean, it's because of pushing it that you know it's possible and that I mean, I will say, I mean, maybe this is I feel like once you've done it once, you know, maybe it would then be easier to do it again, but,
I think it depends on the
yes.
product.
Yeah, yeah,
But yes,
yeah, maybe
philosophically, once you've done
well,
something and proves that it's possible, yes, you should be able to do it again, because I say it again, nothing's impossible. You just have to
yeah,
kind of work towards the idea and make a plan.
yeah, yeah.
I work with it. Did you ever come across that amazing designer, Holly McQuaylan? She's a she's a designer from New Zealand, and she promotes zero waste. And she wrote a fantastic book about zero waste.
I think I've had another designer who I talked to or suggest that book, so I should
So
look into
very
it.
good, very good. It's very very interesting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always
yeah, sorry. Um, so as someone who's been in a long has a had a long career in creative projects, what do you see, you know, what do you see as the future of denim? Which I know is a really broad question, but now that you've seen the transformation in the industry from, you know, not even really knowing about the impact to now, okay, a lot of urgency with it. What do you see as like the next phase of this newfound value in the industry?
Um, I mean, I do look forward to the future, because I kind of know where it needs to be, but
Mm,
I don't know how long it's going to take to get there. I look forward to general sharing and more united front for
and
in industries. It is really happening. It's really exciting now to go out to the trade shows and see everyone reunited after COVID times, and still be very passionate about the industry and want to do the right thing. So pulling together on knowledge and sharing solutions is what I really look forward to seeing more of.
yeah,
And different sort of collaborations and different efforts, and being able to just take basic things like organic cotton and make sure that it's a broader, more broadly available, I guess.
mhm,
There's lots of things like that. Um,
yeah,
there, I don't think in so many ways, though, at the same time as I say that, and not to contradict myself, but I don't think the denim industry really wants to change that much, or necessarily should change that much in so many visual ways, because what the
mm,
things have always been is kind of a perfect product. And yes,
yeah,
of course, our philosophy's changed over the recent years, but the look of a pair of jeans, when you look at an original pair of jeans, riveted overalls from 1873, and you look at a modern
mm,
jean, no, okay, like, so they've got an extra back pocket, and they don't have a little cinch in the back anymore, or waistband buttons. They haven't changed that much. And I think
yeah,
sometimes when we go out looking for a new pair of jeans, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the point I said before about making plans, is that what I love, and I think so many people love about denim, is this very gentle evolution to the way it
mm,
looks. So I think, and I hope, that jeans don't suddenly become something completely out of this world from another planet.
mm,
Uh, I don't think people necessarily need that. I think they need
yeah,
something that's familiar and comfortable and easy on the
yeah,
eye for them. And uh, so looks wise, I expect we'll still be wearing blue jeans in another 20 years' time for sure.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what they're made of, and the substance,
mhm,
and what goes into them, and how much thought there is involved, that I think will be a different place altogether. And I just
yeah,
really hope that when product is made and created, It's designed so that it can just replenish itself, and the circular thing is just kind of like happening all the
Yeah.
time. And we all know that we're doing something good. We're not just taking and just,
Mm.
you know, gobbling it up, and then just you can't we can't do that anymore. We know that. So
Yeah.
there has to be some process and system changes that happen quite soon.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's not so much that they're going to look different, but that the whole back end, the whole process behind it is going to look different than it used to. So, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And so kind of just bringing us to today and what you're up to today. What would you say fills your time right now? Now that you've had all this experience, how are you applying it in your
Yeah.
life?
There's several different projects that I'm working on at the moment. That I, I like the variety of the things that I work on. It kind of gets
Mhm.
me more motivated. Um,
Mhm.
I said before that I'm a potter, and that's kind of quite an important part of my day, that I'm also getting my hands in clay every day, because sometimes sitting at computers and doing sort of design work or coming up with
Mhm.
whole spiels and blurbs that have to be kind of put into presentations and things, it kind of, you know, I got a lot better at doing all that kind of stuff because I used to be really terrible with the technical side of being a designer, but I am much better at that. And I do take pleasure in it, but I still need to get my hands dirty. So
Yeah.
I make quite a lot. I have to be creative with my hands, and then creative thinking, is a big part of the day too. That problem solving aspect to design, working with budgets and timelines and feasibility, and you know, it's it's quite interesting. I'm trying to also launch a brand as well that I've been working on for the last year with a very good friend of mine, and
How
that is really I can't say too much about it, but it is really interesting to be trying to sort of launch a brand. I mean, in one way, I have to be really honest. Does the world need another brand? But what we're going to do is do something where I hope we can lead by example and show other people how we've done it, and
Mm.
maybe it could be a good catalyst, I think, for other companies to, at least take something out of it.
Yeah.
So yes, I can't say too much about it, but that would be for fall 23. So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
we'll
watch
look
this.
forward
And yes, yeah,
to it. We'll definitely look forward to it.
yeah, me
So
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Honestly, so I'm just right in the middle of like, kind of, are we going to be able to have the samples for January? It's like moved pretty slow sometimes. Here we are in November, and it feels like that's a few weeks away. We've got time, but actually, it's not very much time. So
no.
I'm a bit like, I'm gonna.
Yeah. Oh, no, I can imagine it's a handful. So before we finish up, I would love to ask you about the little the pieces behind you and the
Oh gosh,
history.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, my wardrobe is very well, not obviously, but my wardrobe is very big. I'm really sorry. Please, it's good. I don't need to buy new clothes. I've got a lot of clothes that are going to see me through for the rest of my life. And I really love them. But there's more jeans than I need, just because I've had so many good times in them, and a lot of them have been worn in at times in my life, and I just can't let go of some of those aspects to denim, which is another reason why we love jeans so much. I know. Um, so there are just a few things that I just pulled out of my wardrobe this morning, because I am going to be wearing this jacket tomorrow when I go to Milan for Denim Privé. So I thought I'd just get it out now anyway. But this is a um, rebirth of the triple pleat blouse, which was probably Levi's very first very first denim jacket. So it's on the original poster drawings. Yeah, so it's probably 1874, I think, around that time. Um,
Big.
yeah, it's what I love about it is that because I work with cone mills on remaking the original denim. So
Mm.
half of this garment was the original garment was found in a mine, and
Wow.
again we had enough information from that and the drawing to know how the whole jacket would have been. So working with cone mills on remaking the original fabric, really pulling it apart and kind of getting into all of that and getting into the design of the fabric. For me, that I love doing that part of it. Really getting right into the nitty gritty. Working out kind of like the right kind of stitching, the right quality, the labels, the buttons, the construction, everything. Of course, you have to analyze everything. And what's fascinating about this is it's not only it's a loom state, lightweight. It's probably about an 8-ounce denim. Uh,
Wow.
it is cut on the grain is going horizontally. You can't quite see it. I know. Sorry about the lighting as well. It's terrible. But I haven't washed it, and I will never wash it because I don't want it to ever change the shape that it is. But you wear it like a shirt. It's such a beautiful jacket. I mean, originally called a blouse, but it's now what we call a jacket. There's a tilt to the waist. There's a fit to the body, and because of the pleats down the front, it just gives a little bit of movement. There's a really nice sleeve to it, which comes up a little bit short on my arm because I'm so tall anyway. But I still like it. I will be wearing that. But I have a very big vintage collection. This is a fresh produce jacket from Levi's from the 1970s. It has the famous little carrot tab on the pocket. Fresh produce was one of those lines at Levi's. It was 1973, 74, around that time I think they started doing it. And it was, as San Francisco at the time was a very sort of hippie orientated place where people were into the planet and doing the right thing. They used to take back old garments and cut them up and make them into new garments and put the little carrot tab on. And there was children's wear and adults, but light coloured denims. And this is also like probably 9 ounce, something like that. And I think it's a 2x1. And it's a very nice mid shade. And it was always a very nice mid shade. It wasn't ever a dark denim. So it has a lot of vibrancy. So they've topped and tailed it with kind of a very gingerbread kind of woolen rib in that kind of tobacco colour. Very similar stitching colour and just little things like that I love. Where else?
Yeah.
We they have garments here. Like I have the original red here. So this is the original Levi's red from 1999. This, for me, was probably the reason why I wanted to work at Levi's. I thought it was the most inspiring thing I think I've ever seen. What's fantastic about it wasn't just the first twisted seam, which blew people's minds that you could do that with a pair of jeans, but it really took apart the essence of what a pair of jeans is and redesigned elements and put them all back together again in a slightly different way, to the point where it still evokes the feeling that you get from the look of a 5-pocket jean, but it's something different. So this taught me quite a lot about how you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you need to really think about how you can take what's known and what's a given and how you can dial up here and there to create something that's really fresh. And that as a garment, as a whole collection, has always really, really inspired me. And plus the fact that was hemp denim as well, that first one, which, people are just coming around to the idea of that now. That's more than 20 years ago. So this is how things move along in our industry. What else have I got here? I've got some 1930s 501s, which have probably been my favourite go-to vintage fit. I love it because it has all the waistband applications. So you have the belt loops, you have the suspender buttons, and you have the
Mhm.
cinch. And it's quite a small waist on the 33. I love it because it kind of like you can wear it a little bit higher up, and then underneath the waistband, it sort of slightly balloons out, which kind of gives you a really nice sort of feel and ease inside it because it's not really gripping anywhere too much. And because it is a 10-ounce denim, 3x1, it's it's light and it's a good weight in most places that I tend to go traveling in. So that's probably my favorite 501. Um,
Yeah.
and then I love having. I mean, I know I sound terribly serious sometimes when I'm doomy gloomy about the world of denim, but I love. This is not my work. I have to. This is all thanks to Paul O'Neill, who took on LBC after I left Levi's, and he
Mm.
did the lefty. And so this is a pair of 501s. I think it's the 70s 501, I'm pretty sure. And they just had some fun with it and they reversed everything. So they all the labels have all the writing and all the information is all just going the opposite direction. Um, Levi's read back to front. The fabric is a left-hand twill, not a Levi's right-hand twill. And why not? You know, it's great, isn't it, to sort of like take a beautiful product and just do everything back to front. It's
Yeah.
all there. It's just all back to front. I just love things like that. So
Yeah.
what else have I got here? Oh yeah, I mean, God, I just discovered the other day because I was just looking at my favorite jeans and I was going through some
Mhm.
boxes. I found all these jeans. I was like, which ones do I really love? I could never ever part with. Because I have to do that occasionally to sort through my stuff. And I started throwing to one side all the ones that I just love, and they are nearly all 1970s, early 1970s 501s. They're I think that fabric and that fit, which was very square and boxy up in the top block and a little bit tapered in the leg
Mhm.
more than others, is quite a slouchy because I wear a little bit
Yeah.
oversized, but it's quite a good slouchy kind of fit. Uh, so yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at it in my lap, not showing you what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big back pockets and the arcuate's like not too deep. The 60s one's a little bit shallower, but I think this one is also a really nice arcuate.
Ah,
It's with a small E, so we know it's after 1971. It is salvage, red salvage, but I think, yeah, so I don't know if you're going to see this, but okay, so it has the salvage, and it will be a cone mill salvage, but it would have been a red salvage. But
oh,
because in this period they use quite a weak diester in the red yarn of the red salvage, it
yeah.
washes out. And so it either looks sometimes like a pink salvage and sometimes like a plain salvage. Like this one looks like it's plain salvage, but actually the red just got washed away.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Truth, you're giving me an education on jeans warm.
Wow. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I mean, don't sit next to me on a train or a plane because I will clear your ears up.
No, I love that. No, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Honestly, it's such a joy to see how much love you have for the history of it as well as the design and the sustainability. So that's good. That's really refreshing, honestly. Yeah, but just to leave our listeners one final note, what's like a word of wisdom you have for a company or a consumer who is trying to be more sustainable?
Oh. Yes, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
I'll try not to go too much. Um, be kind. Be really
Mm.
kind to everything around you. Um, you have to think about your place. We all have to think about our place in the world, and we have to think about our impacts. And I think just to be really open and kind and
Mhm.
sharing of information and asking questions. We have to dig a little bit deeper. We can't just go on making um, with no visibility on what that means. So
Mhm.
I think regardless of the size of any company now, it's think about who you are and where you're going and how you're going to do that and talk to one another. We've all got friends in other companies that are having the same struggle as us. Everybody has it. And I think sometimes I wake up and I don't know what sustainability is anymore, and I've completely lost it.
Mhm.
But I have friends that I talk to on a regular basis about it, and we're always trying to put the world to right, and that's an important part of our futures as well. Is to be an open book and share and have visibility into each other's methods and solutions, because then we'll be able to help each other get to where we ultimately need to be if we want to have a future. Because
Mhm.
you know, I I am, like I said, optimistic about the future because we know what we need to do. We just need to do it.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's a great point to leave on, to share information, whether company or consumer,
Yeah,
that's gonna
and I know as soon as we finish, I'm going to think of like 100 more things that I wish at that point. But at least,
Well,
well, that's one thing, and it's quite a big thing because we tend to sort of work on our little islands, and a company sometimes is an island, and and I don't think that's very sustainable to be like
mhm.
that. It's so separate.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's my sort.
No, no, I appreciate all your wisdom, and don't worry if you have more to say because I am sure, we will encounter each other again. But thank you for taking the time for showing me all your genes. Um,
All of my genes. I,
true,
I
oh,
just,
true, a
I'm just
fraction
scratching
of
that. That's
just the surface of your genes, of some of them. So yeah, we'll just have Maxine stop the recording, and then we'll send this over to you for you to share with whoever you want. Um, and yeah, just thank you for your time, and I really learned so much, and I appreciate the breadth of your knowledge. So I look forward to
really,
your
it was really nice to meet you, and thank you. And it's
yeah
always really to talk on the
yeah
subject. I don't
of
often get the
course.
chance.
No, I love it. And please let us know about the launch of your new brand.
We'll hear about it.